Hi, everyone. Today, I am privileged and honored to interview with Compassion and Choices, and that is at compassionandchoices.org. This is the organization, one of the organizations that is very pivotal in changing laws about death with dignity. And as you know, I'm a big advocate. So to be requested an interview is truly an honor. It's an honor to tell my story. I'm going to be doing that on a Zoom call in a few minutes, and I'll see if I can record it. If I can't, that's fine. I'm not really that techie, but maybe I'll just keep my video camera open instead. All right, so I don't know where it will go. I know I've been asked to help change the laws in New Jersey to allow outside residents to come into the program, which would be fabulous for me. But they've already had a setback since I was asked that, and the judge has just thrown the case out. So it's back to square one. But as long as I am up for it, whatever they need from me, I'd be happy to help with. I don't know what that entails, just telling other people my story. I'm not sure. All right, I'll talk to you in a little while. Shouldn't be that long. Okay, now we have to unmute me. Right?
Francine, I don't know if you can hear. Oh, there you are. Yay.
Yep. Can you hear me?
You're muted.
Okay, let me just unmute me. All right.
Oh, looks like you're still on mute.
Okay, wait a minute. See video, and how did I do this last time? Okay.
I think in just the Zoom window, if you just click at the bottom left, the little mic stand.
I got it. I did it before, but it just didn't do anything. So sorry, the quality of my video is really bad on my laptop, but my option is
it's just great. I'm sorry for all the technical.
Hey, no problem. Well, it's nice to meet you finally.
Yes, it's so nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for being willing to do this and share your time.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that you invited me. Can I record this?
I'm actually going to record it, so you're welcome to record it on your end as well.
Okay.
Do you mind if I just go ahead and start recording now?
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm going to be sending you a request to record.
Just
and you granted it, so I guess that is going to let me record.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So anyway, I don't know, you got the updates about what's going on in New Jersey. Thank you for introducing me to the attorneys.
Yeah.
But it was the day before our first Zoom meeting.
Oh my gosh, just so disappointing. We've had some real setbacks.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, that's New Jersey.
I know.
Not going to be as easy, right?
What were we thinking? Yeah, no, I know. It's just one of those things where we've had good results in other places, and so we're going to keep trying. But yeah, that was pretty sad news to get.
Yeah.
But
they're going to put me in touch with other people with the legislature and a different department, and I'm happy to talk to whoever.
Well, we appreciate that. I appreciate that you are, happy to help in whatever way.
Yeah, and it may not benefit me, but it could benefit a lot of other people.
Right. No, and I am very moved by your commitment to this, regardless. So I actually want to say too, before we get started, that if at any point this is emotional for you and you want to take a break, or if you just need to turn your camera off, or even if we had to reschedule and revisit the conversation at a later date, all of those things would be totally fine. Please just let me know.
No, I appreciate that. I'll be fine.
Okay. So it's a safe space for emotions, but I want people to, not feel like they're trapped.
Right. So before we get started, no, never mind. I'm thinking about the time that I need to feed the cats. I was going to ask my husband to do it, but we're good. They just start on me a little early.
Well, you can always take a break to feed the cats.
I will let you know. I'll let you know, but we should be good. We should be good.
Yeah, we've got priorities here, and we do not want to forget about the cats. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also wanted to share that I have a document open over here, and I'm going to be typing and taking notes in it. And I just like to let people know that, so you don't think that I'm multitasking, writing emails. I'm listening. I'm just taking notes. And how did you initially hear about the Storyteller program or get connected with Compassion and Choices?
Well, that was my research. When I was first diagnosed, or at least finally diagnosed as terminal, that was a journey. I had run across something that was like, I'd heard of this, but I'd never really looked into it. And now I have that option. So I did, it was basically by research, and there's not that many organizations involved. So Compassion and Choices came up pretty quickly.
Yeah, got it. And how long have you lived in Pennsylvania?
About a decade.
Okay. But you grew up in New Jersey, is that right?
I did grow up in New Jersey.
Okay. And how long did you live there?
Probably till I was about 24.
Okay.
And then I came back to Jersey when I was about 30. Then I was there for another 7 years.
Okay. And I'm asking that, I don't know if this is something you've talked about with other folks at the organization, but I know that my understanding is, and I think maybe you were alluding to this, like we're hoping if it seems like maybe the courts aren't the route to removing the residency requirement in New Jersey, then perhaps the legislature is. And so that's another tactic that we're considering. And so your history with the state might be relevant in that campaign as well. So that's why I just want to make sure we have that document.
Great.
Are you working now?
Very, very little, just when I feel okay. In fact, I just quit a volunteer work gig that I had at a retirement home, and I just finished that yesterday, and I just get too tired that I can't make certain commitments as far as scheduled,
Yeah. I was wondering, I know, like you said, you've had a real journey with cancer, both, it sounds like, with getting diagnosed and then the recurrence. And so I was wondering if you could talk me through that journey, maybe starting with your diagnosis and how you initially learned you had ovarian cancer, and then how and when you learned it had recurred.
Sure. I actually was diagnosed in 2003. I was 39, and I was interested in having a child, before it was too late. And I found out that I probably couldn't because, I don't know, things just seemed to be mangled up in there. So they went in for a routine hysterectomy, and the biopsy showed that I had ovarian cancer. And it's a very rare form. It's actually called low-grade serous ovarian cancer. And there's a big difference between that. It's very slow growing, but it's very hard to knock out. So back then they actually called it primary peritoneal carcinoma, and they have since changed that for the most part. So I had that, and then I had chemotherapy, and they just seemed to think it was knocked out. I went through routine PET scans every 3 months, or CT scans every 6 months. And so I kept up my checkups and thought I had it beat. And then 20 years later, I start having symptoms of nausea and cramping and a lot of diarrhea and just changes in a lot of things in my body. So I had gone to my GP, and she said, well, it's kind of close to time for another CT scan. So I had that, and something started to show, but it was very, very minimal. It was enough to get a biopsy. And then that proved that I had that, also had another PET scan. And the thing about it was that I had found out that it hadn't been. It was very, very slow growing for the last 20 years. You know, all you have to do is leave one cancer cell in there and it can start dividing. So, of course, my world sort of caved in right there. And I knew it before it was official. It was just, it just didn't seem right, and we couldn't figure out what else would it be. So I had chemotherapy again, and I had surgery, and neither of them, it's just inoperable because it's in so many places, and I have so much scar tissue from previous surgeries. And so after chemo and after the surgery, and it was just finally, the only thing that we can do is give you certain inhibitors that might make it a slower grower, and I took one of those. Oh my gosh, the side effects were so bad that my oncologist took me off of them and then suggested another one. And I read about that one and I was like, no, those look just as bad. So I finally decided, listen, I want quality over quantity. And I don't want to take snake oils, and I don't, that's it. At some point, you're pretty resolute about your path. And when I was 39, 40, yeah, I would fight like heck. Now, I'm 61. It's okay. I mean, I've had a good life. So you can talk about regrets and all that stuff, but I'm okay with it. But, and I know I'm going further than your question, but
no, you're fine.
The bottom line is that I am not afraid of death, but I'm afraid of dying. And I'm sure you've heard that over and over again. And I think it would just, I want to enjoy the time I have left, make each day count. That's very important. That's why the volunteer work was kind of like on my cancer bucket list. And it's very sad when you give things up little by little, and then I know at that point, well, I've got nothing else going on, So that's my story as far as how I got here.
When you said that when they went in for surgery, like the most recent time, I guess last year, then they realized there was nothing they could do. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like, did they go in and then discover actually there's too much, we're not able to get it out, or there's scar tissue, like you mentioned? What was sort of the
that was
there?
A little bit of both. Before the chemo, they took surgery off the table because they said, you're going to you have a lot of scar tissue. We already know that from your last surgery when I had my gallbladder out. So we're going to try to zap this with chemo. And my particular chemo is not usually effective on this cancer, but they felt I had proved it wrong before, which I don't know if I had or not. I may not have had any. It could mostly have come out on the surgery, So they said, so let's try that again. And it wasn't working. So I didn't even finish the whole round of chemo. And so suddenly it was like, well, you know what? Let's put surgery back on the table and see what we can do. And I had even said, even if you can't get it all, whatever you can get, if it slows things down for me and buys me time, great. And so at that point, I'd already not resigned myself to being terminal, but I was kind of losing hope because it was like, well, if you took surgery off the table and already said it wasn't effective, and all of a sudden it was like, let's do surgery. Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about the prospects. So when I came out of surgery, and it was like, I guess the next day, and my husband had already told me that, that they weren't really being able to get a lot. He had talked to the doctor. So when she came in, I guess the next day, I was just, you know what? I know it's terminal. and she looked at me and just went, so I'm the one who broke the news to her. Take that credit. And that's when we talked about some alternatives. But the scar tissue from several surgeries before that, and a lot of it from that first hysterectomy and all the momentum they took out, that, all other surgeries. I had bariatric surgery too, about 10 years ago. So that just all was compounded. And she had said if we had moved further and there was places in the pelvis she couldn't even get to, she said I would have had to take your entire bowel out and I would have had no quality of life. So it's sort of all over, God bless you, all over the colon and all over the bowel. It's kind of like paint spray, like a paint gun, So
I see,
yeah. So that was it was devastating, absolutely. But at the same time, I had my emotional moments, but I feel like I was already prepared for the news. So I didn't have like an ugly cry, just some tears, a little self-pity, but that didn't last long either. I just wanted to get on with it. And I was hopeful for what she talked about, the other drugs that could make me last a little longer, but I was not as hopeful once I did the research. And I was a little reluctant to go ahead and try the next one, which was a mechanist.
And what was this? You mentioned how the side effects were terrible. How did it affect you? Those inhibitors that you were talking about.
Oh, whatever you could think of, I had skin rashes, I had diarrhea, I had nausea. Like I've had nausea. That was one of the symptoms that got me back to the doctor to begin with this time. But I was throwing up. It was horrible. And I was reporting those to her and she could see it. She could see it in my face. I even had swelling in areas of my face. So, and honestly, Kelsey, at this point, I can't even remember all the other symptoms, but I think there was a lot of joint pains and things like that. And it's also known to mess with the heart. And I had already met someone online who was 24 and now had heart problems. And she probably wasn't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, really bad heart problems. So I was just, she says, yeah, let's take you off of it. I don't think this is going to be good. And let's talk about another one. And I looked at those symptoms are just as bad, except instead of the heart, they attack your bones. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Just to have an extra 2 years, I'd much rather enjoy myself. Even if I have a lot of bad days, which I do, they can't possibly be as bad as being on that medication.
Yeah.
So I choose quality, yes.
And what healthcare are you at?
You mean as far as where I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to Ann B. Barshinger Cancer Institute, and that's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And do you feel like I'm assuming you are receiving some form of palliative care through them. Is that the case? And
I'm all set for palliative care, but they've already given me everything for the symptoms I have. So yes, I have a palliative care doctor, but I just get refills and I don't need to see her until I'm needing to see her. So
I see,
when there's other problems, I'll probably be able to get in to see her right away.
And do you plan to enroll in hospice whenever you feel ready or need to?
I plan to go to Vermont, actually, and I'm already in the program. I've already been accepted, and I try to keep that first request renewed because I've been up there twice to renew the request. So
I see.
That is my first option, but I have toured a hospice locally that if I should be too sick to get in the car and get up there, then, I want to know where I'm going. So yes, I'm not enrolled. I can't enroll until I'm actually needing the organization. And I don't need them yet. But I'm one of these people that just likes to get all the ducks in a row because it's too important not to be prepared. Because I always feel like if I'm too sick to get out of bed, then I'm way too sick to make arrangements.
Right. So I guess you've received, for you to have already, when you say you've already been accepted into the program in Vermont, then I'm assuming that means either from a doctor in Vermont or elsewhere you've received a 6-month prognosis. Is that correct?
Well, it's funny how that happened, and I don't think it's by accident. When I was a terminal and I did all this studying, I had told my oncologist I'd like to meet someone in Vermont, and I knew she had to give a referral. So she did that. I only expected to get a consultation. I wanted to meet the team. So my brother and my husband took me up to Vermont, and we met with these doctors. And what I found out during the visit was, oh, no, we can actually just accept you, even though you're not in the 6-month window. We can accept you in case you got sick in 3 or 4 months. Then you wouldn't have to request, you wouldn't start over. So that would save me a few weeks of time. And so, yeah.
So it's basically like making the initial request.
Yes, and I didn't know that I was doing that, but that was a gift they gave me. Because they agreed, looking at the scans and reading over my chart, that yes, there was no doubt that I was terminal. And so I did have that, but then the 6 months lapsed and I was still here. And then I let it lapse a little longer because I was still feeling good. And then I was getting a little concerned, like I'm sort of, pushing the envelope there. So at that time, so it was about a year later, actually, my girlfriend, who has a van, we went up and we went camping, and I made a second first request. Because if it were in New Jersey, I'm 90 minutes from the bridge and not 9 hours, So so that wouldn't be as pertinent. I could wait until that 6-month window. But in this case, I was just like, listen, I don't want to have to wait up there for weeks on end to make my first request, my second request, and get the medication. It's very, very hard on outside residents. As much gratitude as I have that they have done this and that your organization had such a hand in it, I also feel that it's not quite enough, And again, absolutely. When I say I went up there, like I was my Vermont doctor's first patient for out of state. I was there probably a couple of weeks after they opened their doors. And they couldn't even answer a lot of my questions. One of them was, where do I go to take this medication? Everybody else goes home. Where do I go? Park bench? When I wasn't going to go to some hotel or a B&B where I wasn't welcome to do that. I wouldn't do that, And they had no answers for me. Now I know that there's a network of people coming on board, and I feel much more confident that as long as I can get to Vermont for that second request, then everything would work well. But only God knows how this is going to work. At this point, I'm still here. There's a chance I might have to make a first request a third time. I don't know. I do know that the decline is slow, but I have felt the difference in the last 6 months, in the last year. There's definitely been symptoms are a little more severe. Yeah.
Can you say more about, and forgive me, I know it seems obvious, but can you say more about why it is, what the challenges are of having to travel outside of your state or, that far away to go to Vermont to be able to access the healthcare option that you need and want?
Sure. For one thing, I don't feel like traveling. I don't feel good. Nobody wants to travel somewhere when they're sick. The first time it wasn't so bad because I was still feeling pretty well. So for me to go there now is a little bit more of a chore. My symptoms in general have gotten worse. Another thing is putting other people out, to ask people, hey, let's go to Vermont. Vermont's a lovely state, but that's not why I want to go. Waiting periods, that's another thing. I mean, I'm happy to have the team there, but you have to go by the law. And I would have to stay there a couple of weeks after the first request. And that's a financial burden on people as well as myself. It is, a 2-week vacation is nice, but not when you're ready to go. And then it just puts you in a whole different mindset. And then I know that I would qualify for the second request, but then I've got to wait again until the medication comes in. And one thing that the residents of a state of approval is that, and a lot of people do this, they will get the medication and then they'll just carry it around in their pocket and they can go when they're ready. I wouldn't have that option. I can't take it home. I have to use it there, and I'm not going to walk around within my pocket because, we've got other people that need to get on with their lives.
Right.
So when I get up there, I don't know if I'll chicken out or not. I think some people walk around with that in their pocket because it's empowering, but at the same time, there's a lot of fear involved as well. It's like, can I really do this? I don't know. They say, I don't know what the stats were, but I heard like a third of them do not, or 2/3. I'm not sure.
I think it's like a third. Yeah, don't end up taking it.
Yeah. And I guess if you wait long enough, you're going to end up in hospice anyway. So the last 2 trips that I made could be for naught. I mean, I enjoyed the people that I went up with and had a good time. But at this point, the longer this goes, the harder traveling is for me.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Oh, and then there's then there's the after.
No.
The after effect is, to get a crematory up there because that's going to be less expensive than getting a body home. And I don't want that for other people, all those things. So it was one of the first things I did after I was diagnosed was to make as many arrangements as I could. But that's also an issue.
So. And I think the flip side of what you're describing is, how would having the option of medical aid in dying in your state of residence or, your original home state of New Jersey, how would it benefit you to have that option so much closer to home?
Sure. Well, obviously, if it was in Pennsylvania, you do it in the comfort of your home. I have friends here and family, but I have a lot of friends and family in New Jersey. And I could see myself easily doing it there at a friend or a family's home, surrounded by people that I love, that I don't have that ability to do in Vermont. I think statistics are that most people bring one person with them, and that's okay if somebody you love is with you, but to be able to to be able to have that comfort around you during one of the most difficult times of your life, I think is major to me. And if there's a waiting period, that's fine. I'm with my friends and family, and I feel that is a big comfort to me.
And what would, I feel like this is related, What would an ideal end of life process look like for you? What would you want that to be?
Wow.
Like your last days or last week?
That really depends on the state I'm in, I think. I mean, the either here or New Jersey would be the most ideal for me. Just I can see, I'm working on that cancer bucket list, and it's a very small list and it's little stuff. It's not that I have to go see the Eiffel Tower, obviously, but just little things like I hugged a cow for the first time. That was on my list. And I rode in a Corvette and we did, burnouts and all kinds of scary stuff. And I painted. And I think that just once I just like having those memories that I did these things and that I did volunteer work and things that were very important. And I almost feel like, well, when all that's done, I'll be ready. But when I am ready, being surrounded by my family and my state, places that I love, familiarity, maybe going for drives to look at places that I used to live, places that I really cherished in South and North Jersey. Being at the beach. If I'm in New Jersey, being in the beach is so special. Seeing the ocean. And wherever that I would do that, in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, I would be surrounded by friends. There would be a party. I mean, I've seen videos of people that have their own little funeral, a living funeral.
Yes.
And I would love to do that. I don't need to have any kind of funeral service. If they want to have a celebration of life after, that's fine. But I find that's more for the living. You know? I mean, I would love one, but I don't have to have one. And if I had one, I'd end up planning it for everybody and find caterers and all. And it's not that important to me. Just being surrounded by love and, just being reminded of the things I accomplished in this life, whatever that entails, it's just those connections, those heart connections that are most important to me.
And I know you're kind of already answering this question, but what would you say brings you joy and quality of life right
now? Yeah, my cancer bucket list and being with family, my husband. I have a stepchild. I have a couple of stepchildren. One of them lives away, but the other one is here, and we're very close. And I think just heart connections and people, and maybe having lunch with a friend here and there. It's very hard for me to make a lot of plans, and I can look at the calendar that I just filled up, and I feel a little overwhelmed. And some of those items may not actually happen if I wake up and I don't feel good that day. So I do worry about those things, but they bring me joy. They really do. There's a friend who's getting married, and there's a trip that we're taking, and honestly, life as usual. That brings me joy. That as long as I have some quality of life, that I can get certain things done and have a good time. And even my work, I really does bring me joy. Helping others brings me joy.
What type of volunteer work have you been doing, or do you like to do?
Yeah, I have been volunteering at a retirement home that has an independent section and then a memory care section. And I've actually been running a class there called Spiritual Gathering with Francine. And that was what I had to give up. I'll go back again, but not on a scheduled basis. I have to wake up in the morning and feel okay, I feel good. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go flip some bingo cards, for them, or get them some food. But yeah, the class itself takes a while to prepare for songs that need to be printed up, and it was just becoming a little bit, that wow, I feel so obligated to be there. So anything scheduled is a little bit more difficult for me. But I love helping. I love helping these people, and there were a lot of tears, and there's balloons behind me you can see, and on the table, and there was a little cake, and I didn't expect any of that, but the staff did that. And the people, I told them the truth. The students didn't know, and there were a lot of tears, but they understand. But that was really hard on a couple of people. Telling people is not an easy thing. I keep it on a need to know basis, but
And is there anything else from your cancer bucket list that you wanted to share? Because I know you mentioned riding the Corvette or hugging a cow, and obviously the volunteering part was important. Is there anything else that
honestly, I'm sort of making it up as we go along. Like, we're going to Virginia Beach. Rehoboth Beach was one of them, and we did that. Virginia Beach is a place that I've never been before and thought it would be fun. But I can't say that it's been on the list where I have to go to Virginia Beach. I like doing a lot of new stuff to say, hey, listen, though, I'm throwing that on my bucket list because, so I am doing it as it's kind of like a B-roll. I'm just doing it as I go along, and if it sort of fits to something that I've wanted to do, okay, we're putting it on the list.
Why not? Yeah.
So I can't really say that I have anything that I can report to you at the moment, but I'll keep you posted.
No, I love that approach for sure. How would you describe your thoughts or your values or your priorities on the type of end-of-life care and options that you want?
Well, the priority is definitely the death with dignity. There's no doubt about that. Plan B being hospice. I mean, I really feel like everyone should have the choice. I mean, death with dignity is not, the whole concept of the MAID program is not for everybody. There's a lot of people that would prefer to do hospice, and palliative care has certainly come a long way, and I know they can keep you comfortable.
Right.
But one of the things that made me feel I was going in the right direction with that was that my stepchild had had some anticipatory grief counseling and had given permission to tell my husband and I what went on in the session. And the thing that I really walked away with was that this kid did not want to see me deteriorate, did not want me to waste away. They were happy that I had that option. And it made me realize, you know what? I don't want to waste away. I don't want to look in the mirror, and I don't want anybody to have to see that, because when someone dies that way, even if you have wonderful memories and you're thinking about them and that memory, a lot of times the final thought you have is when they were wasting away, and it's hard to erase that, So
yes,
I want people to, I always believed in going out on top, and that's not going to happen, but it doesn't have to be all the way to the bottom. So I put a lot of value in having choices, and that's why this is dear to my heart. People choose hospice every day, but I wonder how many more people would choose a MAID program if it was available.
Right. Yeah. I know a lot of people, a huge majority of people are in favor of having the option. So, yeah. I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about the conversations that you've had with your loved ones, with your stepchild, with your husband, with friends or other, dear people in your life, about your interest in medical aid in dying, and what those conversations have been like.
I think that really depends on the conversation I'm having with whom I'm having it. There are some people, even family members, that aren't quite as supportive, and some that are still trying to find the answer for me. People that just want to save me. And it's like, you know what? I know you're in denial, but we need to pull it back and realize what my choices are. And I understand that. I understand where they're coming from. So I get a lot of different reactions, but I don't talk about it to everyone. I did an interview for the Kaiser Foundation, and I don't know if you had seen that.
I did, because you shared that, I think, in your submission.
I thought it was just going to be a little article, and it ended up on CBSnews.com and CNN.com, and people were sending me emails like, wow, I saw you at this, I saw this, So I didn't have to tell everybody. But even the staff, like at the retirement home, they knew I had cancer, but they didn't know anything else. And I, toward the end of last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I guess, I shared the article. It was like, I don't know what you're going to think of this, especially with some with serious Christian values. I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised by a few people's reactions that were very positive, and kind of just saying it's not for me, but I'm really glad that, you feel this is for you, and they're supportive. So I've gotten mostly positive reactions, but like I said before, people are kind of on a need to know basis, even though I'm very public with it online, but more people on my personal path that, aren't following me online, I could play the cancer card, if I want to cut in line for something, or when we're playing games, the family's playing games, I will pull out that card once in a while. Like, you can't do that to me. I have cancer.
You got to get something out of this,
and I've got to keep my sense of humor, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
And when it comes to those conversations that you've had, as far as like your husband and your stepchild, how are they supportive, and how have they responded to your expressing your interest in medically identifying?
Well, I have one advantage of still being here and feeling okay, and that was preparation. There are a lot of people that by the time they get diagnosed, it's too late. They're already in hospice.
Yeah.
But when you feel good enough and you get this news, I didn't even want my husband to have to go through all my stuff and throw things away. So I had a garage sale like almost right away. When you hear you're terminal, what comes to mind is, oh, I probably got 6 months, maybe a year, right? And I'm here almost a year and a half later. So making those plans, and it gave the family also that time to prepare. And we had this conversation not long ago where my husband said, well, you weren't really supposed to be here at this point. Not that he was complaining, but it's true. So we just sort of go with the flow and make plans as things come up. But we've done the hard work already. Everybody has gone to counseling. And for all of us, for anticipatory grief, we've all been to different people. And if we need more of it, then we'll go back. But I think we've done the best we can to prepare, and I feel very supported. My brother and his family live in Virginia, and also very supportive. And I really appreciate that. That means the world to me. And whatever I need, like my brother will be here no matter where it happens. He wants to be in Vermont if that's where it takes place. And so I will be at least surrounded with my brother and my husband.
Have you always supported the option of medical aid in dying? And if not, can you share how you felt before and how you came to support it?
I feel like I was kind of late to the party. I didn't even know for a long time. Really. It wasn't long before I found out that was an option. And it's probably because I never lived in a state that offered it. And even when I bring it up now, there's a lot of people out there that still don't know. They still don't know that they can travel to do that. And some people that think they can travel to do that think they have to go to Switzerland.
Right.
So, and that's a very expensive option, I know.
Yes.
So I never, even if I had found this out as a teenager, I never would have, I would have never not supported it, because my views on death and dying and knowing God would never want us to suffer. And I always would have supported it. And I wish I had known, not for myself, just that I could have supported that.
Yeah. And this is totally an optional question, like everything else. But are you a religious person, or do you believe in God?
I am a religious person, and I'm actually a retired pastor, if you wanted to put that back on my resume, but I'm not Christian based. So I believe in Christ, but I also believe in the Buddha. I believe in the ascended masters, and they're all there, all that good energy to help us along in life. So I'm about the universe. The church that I served was multi-faith. So I have a lot of respect for a lot of paths. But I would say I'm religious, but just not your traditional religion.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. And if you had a chance to speak to Pennsylvania or New Jersey legislators about medical aid in dying, what would you say to them?
That's really a tough question, because I'm better at answering questions rather than initiating the conversation. But I think I would want to plead with them as far as their own family, their own situation. They had to have seen, everybody has seen other people suffer, and I have this very cynical mind when it comes to thinking, you probably don't care what I'm saying because you're just upping your political game. And so you're probably thinking about what you're going to order for lunch rather than listening to me. But I would go through the motions if it helped. I think that I would have to actually think about that question. I'm sure people say, well, we treat our pets better than we treat people. I mean, they've probably heard all that. I would try to bring my A game, but I would, before that appointment happened, I'd really have to think about how I would want to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah, understandably. Yeah. What do you feel like would make navigating the end of life process easier for you?
Well, to make it federal and let it be anywhere, whether you're out of the state or in the state. I mean, even if they brought it to Pennsylvania, I'd like to be able to go to New Jersey if I had that option. And none of this will probably happen in my lifetime, and I just want it for other people. But I think navigating it would make it easier, and understand that I'm okay with the waiting period that needs to happen, and I understand why it exists. I think there should be exceptions. I think there should be a lot of exceptions. I worry about people that have Alzheimer's, and I worry about people with ALS and other diseases that don't seem to qualify. But I think that for me, for navigation would be have more choices. Just have a lot more choices. And your organization's properly named, because have more compassion and offer more choices.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Want to say thank you so much for sharing.
You're
I know
welcome.
it's a strange thing to share this part of your life with a total stranger, so I'm really, really grateful.
Well, being
to you
online, and
for-
I've
for
shared it.
doing that.
I've shared it with so many people now. That's just becoming pretty easy
Yeah,
at this point.
I guess this is not your first rodeo at all.
No, and I'm sure even my husband's sick of hearing it, but
well, too bad. That's your cancer card. So
yeah, I'm going to play that card
you
when I
can
need
pull.
to, for sure.
Yes, exactly. Well, just so you kind of know what to expect as far as next steps, I'll write up a summary based on what you shared with me today, and then I'll email that to you by the end of next week. And whenever you have time and feel up to it, you can take a look at it and check to be sure the details are correct and make any related edits that you'd like. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap up?
I don't. I really appreciate your time. I don't have any other questions. Just appreciate you and thank you for all that you do.
Well, no, thank you. I feel lucky to get to do this work, and so I'm very thankful to you and for sharing and for advocating. And I'll be in touch shortly. So thanks again, Francine. It was so nice meeting you, and take care.
You as well. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.